My hair makes me look like one of the barber band out of The Simpsons, the Barber Quartet.
The B sharps.
The B sharps, yeah, I look like one of those.
We want a name that sounds clever at first, but
Yeah,
then less clever the more you think about it.
All right, we ready?
we are.
We'll let him in.
Count me in. Here they all the regulars walking in. Excellent. Okay. Are we live, Pete?
We are live, sir.
Excellent. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Trash Talk Live number 43, April, the end of April 2025. So today, as usual, we've got 2 hours of discussion and interesting notes and news about the TRS-80 world, Tandy Assembly, and other goings on. I'll get around to each of you. You can tell us what you have or haven't been doing. We always like to say hi to everyone here, so I get round to everyone. I don't have many rules here. The only rules I have are that people have their cell phones set to silent, and if they could avoid from swearing, I'm the only one allowed to swear here. In Australia, we consider swearing to be augmentation of the language, so I'm the only one allowed to do it. Around the halfway mark, we're going to have a retroactive look back at an old 80 micro magazine, which is April 1985, which is exactly 40 years ago, if I make that correct. So if you want to get yourselves a copy, your hands on a copy, that's the one there. It's yellow. It's got a bunch of graphics on it, and it's one of the thinner ones. So we will get to that at the 1 hour mark. So yeah, I'll just talk a little bit for myself to get us started, and then I'll go around the people. So yeah, we're a quick Tandy assembly update. So we're about 6 or so. What are we? 5 months out from Tandy assembly? Is that right, Peter? I think so.
Yeah, 5 months.
Yeah. So we're starting to get the show together, and we've got some pretty cool speakers lined up. We've got, of course, one of our regular favourites, Timothy Halloran. Wave at us, Tim. Yep, he's going to be presenting at a Tech Talk again this year. So he was one of the first to sign up to do one of those. So we're going to be pretty pleased to have him back again. And I'm sure, Tim, when I get round to you, will give us a brief rundown about what he's going to talk about. And another one that I've also signed up who isn't here today, but is one of the regulars, is Joel Hilliard. And he'll be talking about all the music stuff he's been doing, which if you've had your finger on the pulse of the TRS-80 8-bit monochrome world at the moment, he's been doing a lot with MIDI and synthesizing and sequencing and things. So he's doing the he's doing God's work basically. And so yeah, we will be that'll be fascinating to hear and see his talk and the demonstration of the systems that he's going to have at Tandy Assembly. So that's definitely not to be missed.
He's a regular TRS-80 musical prodigy.
Yeah, yep, yep. I love music. I can't play instruments to save myself. So I've sort of hats off to any of these guys who can successfully do that. Let's see, a quick note reminder to people, unless you've been living under a rock or a pile of dead broken TRS-80s, we had recently the unexpected passing of Paul T. Schreiber, which was very sad. But it's a timely reminder that as you get on, people need to have a succession plan for all their equipment if they don't want it to potentially go if they have a place that they wanted to go to or a person that they wanted to go to or something, they need to put that idea in practice, um, sooner rather than later. So that's all I'll say on it. Um, in my capacity as a TRS-80 enthusiast and trader, uh, I do get a lot of people who contact me and say, I've got all this equipment here that used to belong to my father or grandfather or whatever. Can you come and do something with it and make sure it goes to people who can do something with it? And I'm agreeing that that's probably the best outcome for all our uh, collections and equipment and everything. So if people could just have a little think about that, that's not an unreasonable request, I think. So it will be. It's a shame that we're losing Paul. If people who don't recall, he did the cost-reduced color computer one, but he was also a great presenter as well. And we were very lucky to have him once at Tandy Assembly. So and unfortunately, we will never get to see his book because his book was incomplete and at the time of his passing. And I think that while it was going to have a few controversial topics in it, he was in the process of getting clearance for release of these what he calls mostly true tales, and unfortunately, he won't be able to do that now. So that's sad. I was looking forward to the book, as I'm sure most of us were, and unfortunately, we're not going to get to see it. But pity we can't have Paul anymore. He was sorely missed. He'll be sorely missed.
Yeah, Paul was, I consider Paul a friend. Met him a number of times, talked to him a lot on the phone. I guess the first time I met him was when we did the Trash Talk interview back maybe 5 years ago. So, and I think that spurred him to get back involved when he realized people actually cared about the work he did. And, all of us fanatics today who are, um, saving his machines, restoring them, rescuing the software, keeping the work that he and his colleagues did, keeping it alive. And I remember when Frank Durda passed away 4 years ago, so Paul got in touch with me and he helped Frank's, Frank Durda had this huge collection, took over his house basically, and Paul helped his widow, dispose of that through collectors. So he made sure that all of that important historical data artifacts were all saved and not just thrown in the dumpster. And so he had conceived, Paul was a real character, but he was in his heart, he was a really nice guy. And yeah, I'm gonna miss him.
Yeah, we will. I mean, just a short story, and for me that he did reach out to me after the Frank Durda episode and said, "Listen, I got all these tubes of chips that even Paul didn't know what they were, but he sent me an email with all the chip numbers on them, and they were all kind of custom chips for TRS-80s and things. And we cut a deal, and I got them shipped out to me, and so they are not lost or sitting unused. They are, as time goes by, ending up in TRS-80s throughout the world as people buy things off me. So we all, keep these machines running and all help each other out. So, yeah. All right.
So much
Uh,
of the things that you see coming out of the hobby, things like the new versions of Xenix and all of that is because Frank Durda saved like the source code for Xenix, and a lot of the things you're going to see in the future. There are a ton of stuff we still haven't gotten through. You're going to see a lot more coming out, all because of Frank and Paul, rescuing what Frank had. So it's going to pay off in dividends, and Paul's legacy is going to have an effect for years on the hobby and the Tandy community.
yep, exactly. Okay. And I just wanted to mention that we're only a week or so away from the Cocoa Fest. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Next
So,
weekend is Cocoa Fest, Friday and Saturday.
Wow.
yep. So I get the word out about that. I suggest anyone who's interested in their Cocos or no, or any vintage tandies go along to the Coco Fest and support the guys there. We're going to be represented. Tandy Assembly. When I say we, I mean Tandy Assembly will be represented there by a table with Neil Blanchard and I think John. They're both having a table there. So yeah, go and talk to the guys, and we'll see you all at Tandy Assembly in the second half of the year. So what I usually do here is check for new people. If anyone new here for the first time, put their hand up, please. Craig Cole, thanks for joining us. You're first off the rank here. Thanks for joining us. If you give us in 25 words or less your history with Tandy computers going back to the first one right up to the current date. Well,
Yes, yeah,
use more than
that's not hard at all.
use use more than 25 words if you have to. Anyway, you have the floor.
I'll try to keep it succinct. Yes, first, it's a pleasure. Thank you for letting me join in today. I probably, my story's probably a lot like many others. My father brought home a TRS-80 when I was 9 years old, and I immediately fell in love with it and learned to write BASIC, and eventually got into assembly code and other things like that. I've in the last 6-7 years, I got back into vintage computing, and I got myself a Model 4P, and I've been playing with that a little bit, but I got a little more serious with VCF SoCal. I had a couple of friends say that since we went to the first one last year, they were saying you should definitely show next year. So I showed a couple of my old vintage computers that I've had for a while, and I acquired a Model 1, basically Model 1 Level 2 with the expansion interface, monitor, and everything at VCF SoCal for a good price. And so I've been kind of getting a lot farther into my old retro computing days in the last year. So it's been pretty exciting. So anyway, I got into a couple of other groups, and I followed Trash Talk for a while on podcast, and so I saw the opportunity tonight to join in, and here I am.
Fantastic.
Sorry, that was way over 25 words.
No, that's okay. So what's the latest project you've been working on?
Well, okay. Two things, and let me see. The cassette recorder. Now, all right. The TRS-80 I had when I was in high school, the TRS my father brought, disappeared, and when I was in college, I don't know what happened to it. But all the hardware, including disk drives and cassette tapes and software and all the manuals and everything, that all survived. So I still have all that. So I've been trying to resurrect my old hardware to attach to this TRS-80 that I have now. Now, the TRS-80 that I have works great. I haven't had to do anything to it yet. But so I started something simple, or at least I thought it was simple, was the cassette recorder. The CTR-80, the black model, I guess, the original. And before I took it apart, it would play sort of, but awful. So I was like, oh, it's just a belt job, no problem. Took it apart, replaced the belts, and then it got quiet. So I've been hunting and beating my head against the circuitry of this, trying to figure it out. So that's what I've been up to right now, is just trying to get the stupid tape recorder to work.
They're the bane of my existence, those tape recorders. They and to be honest, I mean, if you're determined to get that CTR-80 running, by all means, knock yourself out. But they were never my favorite tape deck, and if you can find yourself a CCR-81,
At the white deck?
they came in grey and white.
Right. Yeah.
I found those to be extremely robust, except for the belts, and so really, if you can do a belt job, you can have a pretty good run with those. I think in 20 years, I've had one that didn't work properly. Well, two of them. One was a 120 volt one I brought with me from Tandy Assembly, and I had jet lag, so I plugged it into 240 volts, and it lasted all of 6 seconds.
Oh no. Well, I do have the 81. That came with a Model 100 that I have.
Yeah.
And so I've been using that with the TRS-80 and discovering my own cassette tapes. Although I did move a bunch of stuff from cassette tape to um, using, oh, who created the, there's a web page where you can import cassette wave files and have it output all the,
Lance Kestloot.
oh, I forget the name, but it was, but anyway, it was super helpful. But yeah, the CTR-81 has been working great and it works fine with the TRS-80. But I really would love to make as much of the old hardware that I had from back in the day work with the new equipment that I got. So that's one half. The other half of the project is the disk drives, which I'll just give the short version of that. I started dissecting them, and I'm surprised at how many bad parts there are on the boards. So anyway, I would love to get into details with this maybe another time or whatever. But if anybody's really interested in the details, I would sure love advice on it. So
We have plenty of time. Which disk drives are you talking about? Is that the 4P disk drives?
Percom. I got to check exactly what the name was.
That's okay. Percom.
Yeah.
That's enough. Yeah, Percom built aftermarket disk drives for TRS-80s among other brands, and they kind of used the cheapest drives they could get their hands on that would do the job and last maybe double the warranty period. After that, you kind of potluck about how long they're going to last. Unfortunately, if you were talking about a 4P, those have notorious Tandon disk drives built in them, made in India. They were okay kind of when they were new, but nowadays, 40 years later, they're almost impossible to find working, and they're very difficult to work on. Complete disassembly is required just to change the belt, so they're not a happy design. Let me put it that
Something to
way.
look forward to. So far, the 4P drives are working okay. Oh, and I need to say thank you. Thank you because you helped me for SoCal. I was the guy that needed the utility to load disk images from a Fred disk onto a TRS-80. That was the disk DCT. I think that was it. It was, yes, thank you. That was a huge help, helped me out. And I got some cool games to show while I was at VCF SoCal. It drew a lot of interest. Everybody said that the Donkey Kong that was playing on the 4P was a huge hit. Everybody said it was the worst looking Donkey Kong they ever saw in their life, but it was a ton of fun to play.
It is playable, but yeah. Thanks for that. I mean, I'm all about helping people as much as possible. I jokingly say I'm only in it for the money, but I'm also in it to help people, and the money where possible. Thanks, Craig. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully, you can come back to a future trash talk. I hope to see you at Tandy Assembly in September.
I would really like to see that. It's a bit of a distance, but I would love to see that.
Well, it's no distance compared to how far I go to this.
Oh, that's true. I'm totally complaining to the wrong person.
Yeah. All right, good on you.
It's becoming the Mecca for TRS-80, so you got to make the pilgrimage eventually.
I think you're right.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's go to Dusty's up probably the latest, I think, in the middle of the night. So I'll put Dusty on just in case he wants to go to bed at a reasonable time. How you going, buddy?
Very good, thanks, Mav. And you? Hope you're all well.
It's autumn here at the moment, or as you guys may know it, fall. But it's still about 68 odd degrees, so I can't complain.
Yeah, we're having a spell of sunshine. We've had a whole week of sunny weather, which has been quite a shock to the system, to be honest.
Did you manage to go out and do some shooting? I know you're keen.
We're having a big upgrade. I apologise if I'm a bit iffy. The internet is playing up tonight. It's very poor response, but yeah, we're having a big upgrade on our rifle range. We're going to be allowed full bore rifles, which was quite an amazing achievement, but there we go. On the Tandy front, it's been reasonably quiet, potting about. Still rely on TRS-80 GP for everything I do. I'm looking forward to the June edition. If anybody is thinking of sending in an article. If you could get it to me, please, by the end of May. Just a word as well, which was a bit of a problem. Last month's edition, last quarter's edition, the March one, we got over 150 pages. And it was, I've never had to hold stuff over yet, but I think I'm going to limit it to around the sort of 90 pages. After that, poor old Microsoft publisher and my computer tend to start sweating a bit. But yeah, yes, 80.
This thing's only 128 pages, so 150 pages is quite an achievement in 2025.
It just everything came together, and it is a bit of a problem. As I say, publisher can't cope with more than, I think, 100 pages. It does seem to flag it won't convert files to PDFs and all sorts of silly problems. Could be the older version I've got, of course, but anyway, I'm going to limit it roughly to about 100 or under 100 pages if I possibly can, although I do hate holding stuff over. It's people have gone to the trouble to write something. The editor should at least make an effort to get the damn thing in. I'm looking forward to hearing from Vince as well. He's going to start Vince Otten, going to start a new series for us, which we'd mentioned briefly in the last issue. But no, up and hopefully we'll get some contribution. I've got a couple in already, and we're looking forward to seeing what you all send in.
Wow, are we going to get to the point where TRS-8-bit is rejecting manuscripts?
Sorry, Pete, could you?
I said, are we going to get to the point where you have to start rejecting manuscripts because it's just too much?
As long as it's not mine that are being rejected.
Yeah.
So that or publish more often. I guess that's another option.
I shall persevere I will attempt to get everything in that I can. And if an article is too long, I can break it into 2 parts and have it over 2 issues. But again, I'm loath to do that. It's just that we're suddenly being overtaken. We're becoming a victim of our own success at this minute, which I'm thoroughly enjoying, but I do find it rather frustrating.
I'm guessing you lay it all out in the program, and then when you go to turn it into a PDF and come back 10 minutes later, it's crashed or blue screening. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, it just locks out. So what I had to do was to split it in half and create 2 halves. A couple of efforts, but then of course the first half runs from, say, page 1 to 60, second half page 61 to 120. When you go to this second half, it starts renumbering the pages from 1 again. So you have to put 60 blank pages in the front but there's no way that I've found to actually start at page number 60, which is annoying. But don't worry, that's it's just a lot of size. I always make it into a booklet, and you see it's actually thicker than some of the 80 micros.
Yeah.
But as I say, please just keep sending in, and I'll do my best to get everything in as often as I can.
Well, I think it's in the best capable hands, Dusty, that you've got it. And actually, I'd consider it to be the envy of a lot of other platforms which don't even produce newsletters, on a regular basis that can be printed into books or anything. So I know that any problems you encounter, you'll work out a solution. You always do. So keep it up.
It's most amazing, Mab, really, when you think we're talking about a 45-year-old computer and we're still rattling out this sort of publication. It's just mind-boggling, isn't it?
And of course, when I joined your team, it just grew and grew and grew. So,
bragger.
Good on you, Dusty. Just before you go, what time is it there in the UK?
Oh dear. Oh, it's only 2:30, so I'm good for another hour and a half. Yeah. I went to bed.
That's in the AM, isn't it?
AM, yeah. I went to bed at about 8:30. Oh, sorry, 2100 hours and I got up just before just before 0200 and I had to go back to bed and then. But Dee's fast asleep next door, so I try not to make too much noise.
I admire your commitment. Thanks for that, Dusty. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thanks, Dusty.
Fantastic. One of the regulars, George Phillips.
Hey
I've,
there.
I've jumped to you because you usually have some interesting thing to talk about with the competition. I guess do we have anything other than what we previously talked about?
No, there hasn't been any updates there. I've not got any feelers sent out yet or anything from entrants. I've been fiddling around with it myself, but just kind of exploring the space. Like, I think I've calculated there's some 700,000 possible expressions you can do with these 6 variables and 4 operators. But
Right.
it's it's a little tricky because there's this online dictionary of integer sequences. If you've ever heard of it, it's this sort of mathematical thing where every kind of sequence of integers you can imagine practically exists there. And so they do have a sequence which tells you that if you've got the four operators, plus, minus, multiply, divide, and n variables, it'll tell you how many different unique expressions you can make out of it. But unfortunately, it's an overestimate for the countdown contest because in that case, our our minus and our divide are funny because you're not allowed negative numbers. So if you have 2 variables, A and B, you can only use A minus B or B minus A. They're going to be the same because one of them is going to be, 0, which just doesn't matter, or it's going to be negative and it doesn't count. And you can't have fractions. So again, only A over B or B over A is going to be possible. So I've been kind of rattling around with various ad hoc methods to try and count the number of expressions because I'm not sure why, but I want to know. Other than that, I've been working here and there on TRS-80 GP. There's a few features coming up which I think people will find interesting. I guess I'm improving some of the keyboard input. So there's, as it stands right now, you can write these sort of scripts and feed input to the TRS-80 and have it fire up and do a directory of a disk or all kinds of things. Use it for testing, but it can also be helpful to sort of automate testing of your own programs or what have you. And so I'm adding a mode to that where it'll work better with the way it handles the input is it actually injects it directly into the ROM routines, that say read a character. But for operating systems like CP/M, it doesn't understand how to give it input, so it doesn't work. So I'm adding an input method where it'll actually just type the keys at it, and so it should work better. And at the same time, it sort of spurred a little bit of adding a little bit of scripting to it. So you'll actually be able to, in the new version, send some commands that will do things like pop up the software keyboard or the debugger window when you start it up, or on demand if you like. And it's a feature a lot of people have asked for because if you run it and you pop up the normal display, but also the debugger, maybe the software keyboard, maybe some memory views, you're basically making a kind of poor man's integrated development environment for working on your programs. And along those lines, and it's the new version will have a custom menu where you'll be able to make your own little menu and have some of these commands associated with it. I did a sort of prototype of this for Ira Goldklang and in some of his intense usages of the emulator working on the archives where he goes through thousands of programs and produces screenshots and stuff. So he's a guy who needs to operate it in the most efficient way possible. But one thing he wanted is he wanted a menu so that he could um, turn on BASIC's Tron command. Because what he'd do is he would look at this basic program and then he would run it, but it might just sit there doing nothing, and so he's not sure what it's up to. So with this custom ability, I was able to add something where you could, using a menu entry, cause Tron to turn on. And so BASIC will start printing the line numbers as executing. So you can tell if the BASIC program is, merely crashed or if it's just looping infinitely and you just don't know what to do to make it go. So all that stuff should be in the next version. I think it'll be pretty cool. Might even be able to use the next version on Unix at least. It's kind of its own shell script with some of these commands. So as usual, the hardest part with any of this stuff is actually writing the documentation, because every time you add something, it's like, well, I guess I need to describe how this works. And it is also usually impressed upon me when I sort of like 1 week later, I go to look at this and go, how does this stuff work again? I look at I didn't write the documentation. Oh, I don't remember. And you have to reverse engineer your own code, and that's really embarrassing. So that probably coming out, I guess, when the next TRS-80 bit, so start of June, the next version.
Cool. Thanks for that, George. Always good to see you here. You reckon you'll make it a Tandy assembly this year?
Not looking likely at the moment, so.
Okay. That's all good. There's always another one the following year, so
Yeah, well,
you'll be along at the next one. Okay, moving right along. Todd Garber, are you new here?
Nope, been here a couple times, but
Okay,
I
well,
don't,
you're up.
I don't contribute much, so I'm just mostly a listener, working on doing a TRS-IO. I haven't built one ever before, and I'm assuming that's going to be a challenge, but it looked like something fun to try.
Always fun building something when you plug it in and it actually works.
Yeah, I'll be lucky if I get it to work, but yeah. So just ordered parts for it and waiting. Got the PCB already, but gotta finish getting the parts.
Do tell us next time if it's all working and or any stumbling blocks you hit.
I'm gonna bet I have stumbling blocks, and I'll be reaching out to you guys on Discord saying, "Help me! I'm lost." But
the newer TRS-IO has surface mount parts, right? Are you pretty good with that?
yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm not doing the plus plus though. I'm doing the one right before that. So I was leery of the FPGA socket to be able to plug into there of doing that one. But otherwise, surface mounts don't bother me. They can be pretty darn small, and I can handle
Well, the good thing is that the vast majority of people who have attempted to build the TRS-IO have succeeded. So I'm sure you will.
Good. Yeah, I actually just changed the board a little bit, the layout of it. So I put all the surface mounts on the back side of the board, and then the pin plugs all go on the other side, so that I can set it on the heater and get them on there. Okay. Like I say, we'll see if it works.
Sounds great. Okay, Todd, are you thinking of coming to Tandy Assembly?
I went last year. We're going to be in Europe, in the UK. So we'll be getting back just before it. And so I probably
heavily, let me guess, heavily jet lagged and your credit card nicely maxed out. So
yeah, and the wife says, "Yeah, maybe we can skip it this year and we can do it next year after our big UK trip. We'll be gone 2.5 weeks, so we'll be enjoying touring." She's been there before, I haven't, so this will be new for me.
Well, enjoy it. It's we still be nice weather there that time of the year, so hopefully you'll get the most out of your stay there.
Yeah, she's looking forward to going to visit some gardens and those kind of things, and I'll tag along.
Awesome. All right, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good. And I appreciate all you guys, by the way, and following along on Discord, and just the wealth of knowledge you guys have. It's always impressive.
Anytime, buddy. Yep. Let's go top left corner. Peter Stensky. How you been?
I've been pretty good. I don't think we had a show between now and when I was at VCF East, right?
I don't think we have, no.
No. So yeah, we did VCF East, me and my son, about a month ago now, right? So, and as usual, we were pretty much the only Tandy representation, as far as I recall. I don't recall seeing any of the. Maybe there was a Coco or two. I think there were some Coco classes, which was pretty neat. I didn't get
Yeah,
to.
Henry was directly involved in those.
Yeah, yeah. So that was great to see. But yeah, I had the exhibit with the TRS-80 expansion interfaces, all the different versions, and yeah, got a lot of so many people were surprised they didn't realize there were that actually third-party expansion interfaces available, and just a variety. That was like the neat part of the exhibit. It was there were just so many different types and different form factors and different sizes. It's just really neat to see them all in one place. So a lot of people got a kick out of that. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to bring that same exhibit to Tandy Assembly this year. So, although I'll only have one table at Tandy Assembly because this year we're trying to get as many people in as last year we had to leave some people behind because we didn't have enough tables. So we're just limiting it to one table this year, unless near towards the end, there are some tables available, then we'll let people have two tables. But for now, we're just going to limit to one table so as many people can have tables as possible. So I'll have to try to squeeze all my expansion interfaces onto one table. Maybe I'll get a shelf sort of system where I can layer them.
Joel's gonna need 4 tables.
Joel is really he's going to be doing a lot of work at Tandy Assembly this year. He's teaching a tech track course,
Yeah.
doing a talk. He's going to have an exhibit going. So,
I
yeah.
think if he requires two tables, we can probably make that exception early on.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'll try to fit it in there.
we'll have to suss it out and see how many computers he's intending to bring along.
Yep. I did want to just share my screen here for a few minutes and just, talk about Tandy Assembly where we are right now. So right now, exhibitor registration is open. We're looking for sponsors. We're looking for speakers. We're looking for tech track teachers. All right. So for speakers, like I mentioned, we've got Joe Hilliard down. He's going to be talking about his how he creates music on the TRS-80 using the MIDI 80 and the Orchestra 90, and how he creates his fusion synth music. For the tech track, we've got, as Matt mentioned, we've had a couple people already signed up. We've got Tim Halloran talking about CPM on the TRS-80, an in-depth introduction of how you can do that and the history behind that. It's always time. Tim can talk about a little bit more when he comes up. And Joel, we got Joel doing a tech track talk, which is going to be more of a technical topic on the MIDI 80 itself, its core functions and the hardware and how you actually program it. So that's going to be great to see. Exhibit wise, we have a number of exhibitors already signed up. We got myself, we got Ian, Arno Pooter and Matt Boyton are going to be there. They haven't decided exactly what they're going to display, but I'm sure it's going to be cool. Joel's going to have a table with his synth music stuff. Marcel's going to be there with his retrospect products. Kenneth Ferron is going to be there again. He always has a lot of machines to sell. So if you're looking for a TRS-80, stop by Ken's table. He'll have something for you to buy. Matt Massey is going to have a table on updates to Nitrous 09. Tim's going to have a table. Tim, I got to get more information from you of what your exhibit's going to be, but we'll talk about that. Scott Tonenson's going to be there with his collection of computers, including some Lobo stuff, Lobo LX80 expansion, Lobo hard drive. Simon McCullough's going to be there again with his Model 12. Michael Hill, him and his wife produce all those great retro products. I think I have one behind me, that Radio Shack sign. No, I got that from somebody else last year, but they'll have all sorts of signs and goodies for you to buy. Randy Kindig is going to be there from Floppy Days. He's going to have his table, and Scott Ellentuck from New York, he is going to have a bunch of computers and accessories and TRS-80 Model 1, 3, and 4 parts. So we got a pretty good exhibit load going so far, but we're definitely looking for more. We've got a bunch of sponsors. I just want to mention the sponsors because we always like to give them a shout out because they support the show. Again, Mav, thanks for sponsoring. We've got Eddie Malfris. His Tandy Showcase is sponsoring. Blair Robbins every year. Enthusiastic supporter of the Tandy community. Thank you, Blair. Ira Goldklang is a sponsor. Peter Bartlett and Bartlett Labs, always a very generous sponsor. Thank you so much, Peter, if you're listening. Dusty every year is a sponsor. Thank you, Dusty. His TRS 8-bit. Marcel with his retro stack. Tuck with his workbench. Corey 8-bit classics. Joel was sponsoring again. Joel's on every page of Tandy Assembly this year, so he's really into it this year. Val and Ken, who've been on the Trash Talk podcast before, former Tandy workers, engineers. Thank you guys. Always very generous contributions. Chris Heiser, John Elliott, former Tandy R&D engineer. Hopefully John's going to be there this year again. It'd be great to see you, John. The Tandy Emeritus guys. Thanks, guys. And of course, a couple of podcasts. So great sponsor lineup. Obviously, we're always looking for more to help cover the cost of running the show. The show is in really good shape. We'll be able to have this show for years to come, even if we have some bad years. So we're going to be around for a while. All right. That's all I had.
Great. Thanks, Pete. Good update there. Of course, come back to Trash Talk every month now until Tandy Assembly for an update on how things are going. We're always trying to find good people to speak at our little show. So and we're always pleased to announce it here. All right, let's get some Coco content. So L. Curtis Boyle, always happy to have you join us here. How's things back in the Great White North?
Not doing too bad. I won't be making Coco Fest and any other shows this year. Mainly because I put a down payment on a truck a month or two ago, and now they're talking about adding some parts tariffs in May. So I don't know what my truck's going to cost now. So the extra money I'm kind of setting aside to cover any massive change of price here, since I don't really know what's going on.
Is it a Cybertruck?
No, just it's a Ford Maverick, a hybrid.
Good choice.
I'm going to be like Peter and start hauling a camper around so I can afford to go to more of these shows. So.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously Coco Nation's going every week and, getting longer and longer. We're also working on the next version of Nitrous 9 Ease of Use, which includes, somebody was mentioning earlier, I think it was George, about doing documentation. So I've been working on the new Basic 9 manual because we've added a whole bunch of commands to the Graphics 2 library, fixing up some bugs in the original. We've obviously optimized some of the code. So some of the tables of optimization, number of CPU cycles per function has changed. So I'm updating that too. I'm adding a new chapter entirely for how to deal with multi-view from Basic 9. So you can actually write fully, based GUI programs and stuff. So that's being worked on. That's a 300 or 400 page manual. There'd be the next version of Nitrous 9, its ease of use itself is not going to be too many changes to the operating system core. There'll be a few minor ones. Mostly it's cleaning up the hard drive images because I had a whole bunch of older versions of Source, which is keeping around just to keep it handy in case bugs were found. So I'm going to be cleaning that out and free up space. There's 3 new games will be getting added to it. One's completed already, 2 are pretty close. So I'm just waiting for the authors of those 2 to get them finished up and tidied up. Deke, Jeff Dennison has got a new version of the C compiler, so we'll be putting that in there as well with some new documentation to cover that. And just kind of continuing on there. There's a bunch of games we talked about on a couple other podcasts earlier today that are being announced for the Coco that have some pretty cool ones. One is a Spy Hunter game, and I do want to share a picture of that particular one just because it's kind of cool how he's going to have this up. He's going to be at Coco Fest too, the author. So let me just get my share sound. So this is the splash screen and a quick little manual you just hacked together to show. And it's based, of course, on the arcade game of the same name. 64K Coco 1, 2, or 3 required, so you don't even need a Coco 3 for it. There's kind of a layout of the screen when you actually get into playing. Lots of artifact colors. He's using it quite well, getting some of the extra shades beyond the basic 4. 2 joysticks required. The right joystick is you're firing for the guns. You're speeding up and slowing down with your gear. You're steering. The left one is to change which of your bonus weapons you get picked up, like smoke screens and oil slicks and all that stuff. So we actually require both joysticks to play it. And here's some of the vans that have the different weapons you can get. You drive in the back. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Spy Hunter, but basically you can drive up. Yeah, so you drive up into the truck and you get the appropriate weapon. Here's a list of some of the opponents, which are quite close to the arcade originals, even in look. It's not quite done yet because you can see here Mad Bomber to be determined. He hasn't got that in yet. Here's some of the people you're not supposed to shoot and run off the road. And he's got his splash screen stuff as it loads into, and then some technical details on it as well. But one thing he's also bringing to the fest, uniquely to the fest, is he's actually, instead of just using the 2 joysticks, he's actually created a console for controlling it that is much closer to what the original arcade is. And he just announced this week, so he's bringing this sucker.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
To actually play on it. So I know Henry just going to be taking some video footage there because I want to see this thing in action.
Oh, I absolutely will. I absolutely
I'm really hoping he captures the music. The music in that game was, I can hear it in my head right now.
I don't know if he'll be able to
looking at
pull
the
that off
screenshot.
unless he uses like an actual sound chip, because he's doing full screen scrolling and he's
I
got
imagine
digitized
it's
sound effects and
such a
stuff. But
tall order. It looks great.
on a Coco 3, I think he probably could, but he wants to make this work on a Coco 1, 2, or 3. The other one I wanted to kind of mention in specific is this one here, Myth Fair, which he was calling by a different name, but had to change it because he's been working on this secretly for a while. And the name he'd originally picked, a published game just came out that's the same name, so he had to quickly backtrack and change it all. But basically, this is an Ultima style game with a lot of the modern Ultima stuff like auto mapping. It's got weather effects. You can see a screenshot here of the rain. Actually, I'll just play it while I'm describing it, so you actually get to move around. But you have rain, you have snow, you have smoke coming out of the houses and stuff like that. You got viewing angles and everything else. And he actually worked on a Coco 3 Ultima tile clone back in '89 from Oblique Triad called the Seventh Link, if anybody's familiar with that. But this is a much more advanced one. He's also adding in a lot more depth of story, because in the old days, I mean, you talk to a character, a non-playable character, and it would be like, talk to the jester. He laughs and runs away, and that's basically all it ever does. This is much more intricate. They'll give you paragraphs to explain. You actually have conversations back and forth. But I think, aside from the fact it's a 512K Coco 3 game, the most unique aspect of it is he's actually writing. He's written an emulator to generally play this game under Windows. I think Windows 10 and above. So it's actually going to be sharing the same Coco code, and you can play the exact same game with the same graphics, the same sound effects on both machines, to the point where if you save the game on your Coco in progress and then copy it onto your laptop before you hop on a plane, you can actually pick up where you left off with the exact same save file. And then vice versa, you can transfer it back to the Coco from the Windows machine. And he just recently did an interview with the RPG Gamers podcast. It's a bunch of programmers that make RPGs. And they interviewed him with some depth, and he was showing his editing tools and all kinds of stuff that he's got planned for it. But there's a lot of really cool stuff in there. But quite a lot more descriptive on when you're talking to characters and stuff, and weather effects and all kinds of other things. So it's a pretty big jump from what we've been used to in the past. And that's stuff I wanted to share anyway. Don't take up too much time.
Very cool.
Thanks, Curtis. Always good that you can join us here. This be the first Coco Fest you're going to miss out on for a few
COVID.
years now,
Since
COVID, since 2021 or something.
Yeah, there was a span I missed between 2004 and 2016. I think I was kind of really busy with real life TM. I just didn't have time to go down there, but now I've kind of got back into it. But yeah, just circumstances this year just didn't turn out right.
Cool. All right. Thanks for joining us, as always.
Yeah, third podcast I've been on today. My throat's getting a bit hoarse here, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know. I've got an Australian vintage computer collectors one to do tonight after dinner, so I've got to remember not to do that, because not to forget that one, because last time I did our trash talk, had my dinner, and then sat the whole night thinking there's something I'm supposed to be doing here, but completely forgot about it.
I was lucky because all mine ran right together. I had our show from noon till 4:30ish, And then the International Computer Club by the Amigos was already started, so I joined it later. And then I had literally about a 20-minute break from the end of that to quickly grab a burger, and then I'm on here. So I didn't have time to forget.
Do you know if you extend Coco Nation just a little bit longer, you can turn it into the first computer platform non-stop 24-hour.
We've talked about that actually, 24/7 CNN of it'd be Coco News Network, but
Coco News Network, because you've got people in different countries that can continue broadcasting and talking about the stuff while the North America sleeps and so on. I mean, it's doable, and
Nick, I think he's volunteering you to cover the Australian part of it.
Oh, yes, right. Where do I sign?
I heard Nick then, so I'm going to move on to Nick now. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, good. How are you? Thanks
Can't
for
complain.
inviting me on. Is it my turn to blab on, is it?
It is. Blab away.
Okay. All right. Well, all I'm going to be talking about is my latest game project, which is for the Tandy Color Computer 3, and it's another game, and it's a pinball game. I thought I'd do a pinball game this time. Not that I'm a big fan of pinball, but I figured, well, what's a game that a lot of people have been asking for on the color computer, on the color computer 3 in particular, that if they might even be prepared to buy it. Anyway, pinball was a popular one, which is not my favorite, but I've got to do what the audience asks. So I started a pinball game. And the biggest thing that I was afraid of with pinball is how to do the physics for the ball, which, it requires a little bit of mathematics to understand all that. And maths is not my subject. I can't do maths. I failed at school. I didn't want to fail at doing this. So I sort of started the project quietly, not telling anyone what I was doing until I can get the basic ball movement working correctly. Once I got that working, then I was, more confident, and I've gone ahead a bit further. And what I have here today is a video recording of my current work in progress. So it's not complete yet, but it's enough to see where it's heading. So I'll see if I can share a video I did. I did a video so I don't have to.
Yeah, don't forget to share the sound.
Yep, I'll do that. So just so that you don't have to sit there and watch me fumbling through trying to play the game and talk about it at the same time. Let's see if this will come up. Okay. Now, is that sharing?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'll just hit play and I'll let it run.
It'll be a 512K Coco 3 game. No 639 required.
Yeah, it's just for a standard Coco 3, but with 512K of RAM. Okay, so I'll just pause the title there. So Pinball by me. It's looking good on the title page. I'll just let it go on. It just shows basic credits and shows you where to send your evangelizing to me. And then it's got a high score list. There we are. 6 high scores as well. It'll start the game in a second. But a big delay in there because I thought I'd be talking more. So that's the game there. Now it's I'll pause again. It's a pinball game, but it spans 2 screens vertically. So I don't know if anyone has, well, probably have seen pinball games on other computers, more modern computers, and what they do is they scroll the screen up and down in order to get that height of a pinball table, without trying to cram everything on one screen. So it's going to be one that scrolls. I'm modeling I'm modeling it more to look like and feel like an old style pinball machine, one from the 50s and 60s. So I didn't want to do another one that has electronic readouts and digital lights and stuff and all that. I tried to give it a bit of a retro look. So you'll see as when I start it now. In the bottom left corner, for example, the score is the old style, and when it moves, the numbers, when I actually hit the ball, yeah, they roll. So it gives it a bit of that old style pinball mechanical scoring system. I've got a ball return thing that I just grabbed there, a little light down the bottom of the screen, which when that's on, that green light, if you lose the ball, it'll go down, but it gets spat back out straight away. So obviously a good thing to try and collect. Otherwise you do lose the ball. At the moment, this is a demo version, so you're not actually losing any of the balls. So I'm just testing it this way. Instead of the old traditional plunger on the right-hand side of a pinball table, which I was going to do originally, but then I didn't like the idea that it uses up a bit of space on the side of the table, which, you know, when you only got low resolution graphics here, I didn't want to waste that space for the plunger. I wanted to have the whole width of the area. I'll just pause there for a sec to explain something. I wanted the entire width of the display to be available for the game. So I launched the ball from down the bottom between the two paddles. It shoots it up between the paddles, gives it a bit of a randomness. So it's not just coming out at exactly the same angle. It's got a slight variation in the angle just to make it a bit different. That, yeah, as I said, gives me the full width of the display. The targets that you see in the top left, those yellow lights that have come on, when there's 5 targets, if you can hit all 5 targets, you then activate that thing in the middle of the screen. And that's a magnetic spinner, which it has these lights around the outsides, and one gets lit up in purple, and the purple signifies a magnet. And as it's spinning around and round, if the ball enters in that area, in that region, it gets magnetically attracted towards that colored purple lit up light. So it sort of distorts the motion of the ball. While that mechanism is on, all points on the screen get multiplied by 2. So it's beneficial to actually get all the targets to activate that, because you double your points. But of course, when the ball is moving more erratically, you've got to be careful, because it's easier to lose the ball then. Anyway, I'll let it go. You'll see the ball, when it goes through it, it'll divert a bit. I'm just holding the ball so I can plan my throw. There you go. So that one diverted it towards the right, and it really does bring the ball to life. And in that case, the magnet was down, and it just accelerated the ball straight down the middle. Not what you want. The sound effects, I've tried to make it sound like a real mechanical pinball. So it's got the bells and some of the mechanics that's normally inside a mechanical pinball. You can hear them clacking in the background. Now there's still a few more things to add, such as little gadgets that allow you to win additional balls, a few other pinball gadgets and things have yet to go in, especially in the area there on the right there, the top right. That's a bit blank at the moment. And gradually I'm just piecing it all together. But I've got the ball movement almost right. It's a little bit sluggish in areas, so I've still got to tweak it, but I'm getting close. Considering I knew no idea how to calculate all the inertias and stuff, and also take into account that like on a real pinball table, different surfaces that the ball collides with can affect the ball differently. Like if it's a hard surface, it'll bounce the ball more, whereas if it's a rubberized surface, it'll dampen it. So I do take all that into account, and it does vary depending on well, I've got a thing in there called a collision map, and that sort of allows me to encode what the different surfaces are that the ball encounters. So it gives a bit of variance. I've tried to give it a bit of a realistic feel in that the ball, when you're hitting it with the paddle itself, depending on whether you hit the ball towards the pivot point or whether you let the ball roll and you hit it more towards the outer edge of the paddle, the paddle the ball moves at a faster rate if the further out from the pivot point on the paddle it is. So in other words, you give it more throw and more power. There's vocal effects as well in there.
Yeah, these pinball games are all about the ball physics, right?
Yeah, so I'm really trying to get that right because, well, it's not a pinball game if it doesn't quite follow all the pinball physics.
You got it working pretty well.
It's pretty close. It's pretty close. There's a few parts in there I still got to fine tune. I mean, I think as it is, even if I left it as is, it'd still be a fun game. But yeah, there's a few things I'd like to fix up a bit more.
I like when you held the flipper open and the ball came into the little valley and it just sort of bounced back and forth just like a real pinball.
Yeah, like the when that green light is on. It only does that once when that light is on. The gadget on the left side, when you hit that activates that green light. But it only does it like it is now. It only does it once. Once it rescues the ball once, it turns off. And you'd have to get that. There we go. Now we've got that. It spud it straight out. And if it was actually deducting balls, it wouldn't deduct it for that. So you'd have the same ball. Oh, it spun that almost to the edge. The score display, I wanted to have that overlay whereby it looks like it's sitting in front of the table. So on the bottom left, you got the score. On the bottom right is the number of the balls that you have available, and that's just always on the screen, overlaid over everything else. What else can I talk about it? Anyone got any questions?
Did you draw inspiration from a particular game?
Not really. I tried to make this like original. Well, pinball's not original. It's pinball, but I didn't copy any specific pinball game except for the fact that a lot of pinball games nowadays, such as on the Amiga, the Pinball Illusions and Pinball Dreams, they use that dual screen type display where it scrolls. I'll just turn this off. That's the video. So yeah, I wanted one that worked like that. But as for the design of the pinball table, I've tried to make that all myself. Tried to program this old school where you just do everything from scratch. The graphics, it's drawing everything in pixel by pixel and designing it that way and tweaking it manually. And I didn't want to just do a port of something else, and I probably wouldn't be able to anyway. So for me, it's just easier to just do everything from scratch. And so far, I'm happy with the results. It's better
When
than
do you
what I
think
was.
it'll come out?
I'd say I'd still have another 6 months to go.
Yeah.
It's a matter of having free time as well. But yeah, I think it'll work out. I mean, I was skeptical at the start when I started it that whether I could do it.
You wouldn't
Um,
believe how much I had to rag on him to have him continue
well,
working on it.
he knows I'm not a pinball fan, and so I kept saying, "Oh, look, I don't know really enough. I want to do pinball," but he kept bashing me on it, and a lot of people kept saying they want pinball. So um,
Just my final thoughts on it. I'd really implement the side plunger, even if even if it's there just to launch the ball, and then once the ball has gone through the arc into the game itself, if the whole window moves over and the plunger disappears, that would add realism to it. But I'll probably ask something that takes another 6 months of programming
oh
to
yeah, I mean, I've designed it all
implement.
like this. It's not really, I haven't really designed it to be easily moved that way. And I
Yeah,
just I just thought, well, let's do something different about it. So why do the same as what everyone else is doing, the plunger on the side? Bugger it, I'm just going to do my own. So I so,
exactly.
so I
No,
thought, yeah, fire it up the middle.
yeah.
So
Sounds sounds good. All right. Well, I'll be keen to hear closer to it when it's available for purchase. So I'm sure you'll let us all know. And yeah, thanks for joining us again. Maybe you'll be
all
here
right,
next month.
thank you. Thanks a
All right
lot.
then.
Bye.
Okay. So we're about halfway through the thing. So we're gonna have a look at this thing here. Has everyone got their copy or their PDF it in front of them and it's working and open? So 80 Micro. April 1985 is a 128 page 80 micro issue from when they're starting to get thinner. In fact, they're probably, I think this was about as thin as they got because they actually started to get a little bit bigger as towards the end of their run. But I can see that holding it up and the people that would have been subscribers during only 2 years earlier, around April '83, were those big, enormous issues of 80 micro that had just under 400 pages. So
And a
the
few
size
over
of
that.
and a few of them are over that, yeah. So now I call this era 80 micro Mark II, as in the cost reduced version of it. Um, these are actually from this era are my favorite issues. They're the ones that I referred to a lot more than the older ones, simply because I was doing more with the Model 4, whereas the earlier fatter issues dealt more with the Model 1 and 3. But also the sophistication in the articles in this era here are a little bit better than the early ones. They don't have as many articles as such. If we have a quick look finger through the issue, if we go straight to page 5, Peter, we can see the contents page, which previously would have taken 2 whole pages of don't know what's happened to it there. It's been rendered in
That's weird.
in reverse colors, but it's that page there anyway. So there's really this magazine essentially has 4 articles in it, as opposed to the earlier issues, which used to have sometimes 25 articles or more in it. So what we've got in this issue is a high resolution Model 3 and 4 program, and that also runs on the Tandy 1000, which allows you to do high resolution bar charts, line graphs, and print them. So that was a good use of the machine, because the computers had high resolution boards, and there's very few and far between articles they utilize the Model 3 and 4 high resolution board. So that was good to see. Page 50, we have a very good review there of the Tandy 1000, which at this point in time has been on the market for some 3 or 4 months. So they've got their hands on it. We'll get to that in a moment. There's on page 62, there's a disk zap program for the Model 4 and another feature on page 72 to do with database management or something. So yeah, going through it, these are the pages that I've most got earmarked here.
I just want to comment on the title page. I mean, look, I love the TRS-80, but 1985, great graphics, and then you put this on the cover. It's a little lame, I got to be honest.
You got something against bar charts?
He wants color bar charts.
I thought it was P Mode 4 when I first looked at it, and then I was like, oh, wait.
At this point in my life back then, I was getting a lot of ribbing from all my friends that had Commodore 64s. So,
Right.
yeah.
And the Ataris were big, the Commodore 64 with all that flashy color. Coco, right? And then they put this, I don't know.
The Amiga 500, was the Amiga 500 out at this point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember there being something in Byte magazine about that, like right around that time-ish.
Yeah. If my internet drops out, it's flapping at the moment. So just if I seem to disappear, just proceed without me. I've noticed it's flapped a few times today. Page 8 has a typical Eric Maloney whinging editorial, which I actually quite liked and look forward to his editorials each month. He's definitely a glass half empty type gentleman. So he did write some pretty good editorials. I thought this one he whinges about the price advertising and the name of software. He doesn't like the name of software. He doesn't think AI will be able to write books, which is actually still the case. And let's see, he also doesn't like Bill Bixby being the cover, the face of Radio Shack at the time, and listed a bunch of candidates to replace him, which actually I agree with a few of them. Remember, this is 1985, so his list included Rodney Dangerfield, Cyndi Lauper, Bruce Springsteen, Richard Gere, Joan Rivers, Eddie Murphy, Rocky and Bullwinkle, Julius Irving, Lakwalasa, and Lee Iacocca.
My vote is for Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah. I think Joan Rivers, but I don't know. Well, if she could think of a funny way to advertise it, so
I don't know. I always liked Bill Bixby's Tandy.
Yeah, I didn't mind his. I mean, he was playing a superhero on TV with the Incredible Hulk at the time, right? So
yeah. He was gravitas. I don't know. Right.
I think I think time has shown that that they weren't bad ads at all. And every time we talk about or post them on vintage computer forums, people always get a smile on their face when they see Tandy ads with Bixby. So I think they've held up pretty good over time.
yeah.
Jumping to page 26, Peter, my main man. Just in the lower right corner. Yeah, keep going a little bit more there. That's probably the last. You've gone too far. Back a little. Back. Yeah, stop. So you've got A&J Micro still selling the stringy floppy drive. Down a bit, Pete. If possible. Oh, up a
I
bit.
see it.
Up. Under that blue thing. You're nearly there.
Ah, there we go.
There. Yeah. So stringy floppy, it was popular for a little while, and then the company went bust. I think this company, A&J Micro, must have picked up all the Exatron old stock and just continued to push it as a product. But it was pretty much done and dusted by 1985. So So that
Ian,
would,
do you mind if I ask you a quick question?
yeah, go for it.
Did you think that the fall to the number of pages that we're seeing in this particular issue of 80 micro and the ones around this time, is that mostly because hot cocoa had been split off, so all the cocoa stuff got moved out? Because hot cocoa ran from July of 83 till I think February of 86, so it's during this time period.
No, that's the opposite of what happened, actually.
Oh.
So 80 micro in 82 and 3 had the cocoa content, and it was threatening to become a 500-page behemoth of a magazine. So they split it out to hot cocoa, and then the magazine remained around 300 pages for a while. While hot cocoa was running, but everyone that I've spoke to associated with 80 micro and hot cocoa say that the reduction in size of both magazines was solely come down to the advertisers dropping off
Okay.
and doing other things. So it's
And he's gone.
And okay.
Well, he answered my question anyway.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any of those drives?
the stringy floppies, yeah, I have
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And working flop cassettes, because they always broke down those tapes.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of tapes that still work, but I try to use it
Cool.
very infrequently because I'm sure those tapes are not going to last.
they're very thin. They're extremely.
okay.
Yeah, I'm back. They're extremely thin, those tapes, and they break easily. So
Very easily, yeah.
they're
I think it's
not.
where it splices together with the leader tape or the leader portion of the tape. It unsticks, and then
Yeah.
it just unloops.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you for pointing this out, Matt, because 1985 is really late for the stringy floppy, and I wasn't aware that another company had bought the rights to it. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always found it.
I don't know if it was even the rights. They might have just bought the whole stock that was left over from Exatron, and because I think they called bankruptcy, so their administrators would have had to sell off all their stuff, and they've just put it out there. But I don't know how much longer that advert continued.
Yeah.
All right,
It was-
the big article in this issue jumped to page 50 and 51. Thank you, my man Pete. Is Tandy 1000, very Texan looking page layout and text there. Just scroll it down a tiny bit. It's even got check the text there. Tandy rides again. Yeah. Classic. To summarize it for people who are TLDR, too long, don't want to read it. The Dave Roll who reviews the thing, replaced his IBM PC on his desk with this with his Tandy 1000, and straight away had no problems with it running all of his software. And yeah, the only gripes he had was the different keyboard layout, which you soon get used to, and the fact that it doesn't take the full 13-inch card slot cards. It only takes cards up to 10-inch, but they are working. He finds it to be a perfectly good machine. So I read this article when it came out. At the time, I was using a Tandy 2000, and this was before the enormity of the Tandy 2000 failure was apparent. So in reading the specs and the article on the computer, I was kind of like, how can this thing even succeed? That the 2000 just runs rings around it, and it does. But for the job that the 1000 was created for, which was to do a budget entry, low entry cost MS-DOS machine with full functionality, it ticked the boxes.
And play Sierra games in 16 colors and with sound.
That boils down to the choice of processor, right? The 8186, which wasn't very compatible or something. I don't know the whole story.
No, that
I think it was more the BIOS and the DOS calls. One was
Yeah.
compatible, one was not
There
with all
was
the PCs.
there was a certain measure of compatibility that the 2000 had, but the 2000 came up in an era where they still hadn't realized that software compatibility was going to be such a huge deal. The 186 offered an increase in performance to the 8086 that was enough for the 2000 to be a very capable machine, but the 286 came out like right after the Tandy released the 2000, and they lost because the 286 wound up being the better processor, and they lost because the 2000 did not have the full compatibility that it needed to be able to compete in the marketplace.
The 2000 was an MS-DOS compatible, whereas a lot of software really required full IBM compatibility as well.
Yep. Now the 2000 shone with its graphical capabilities and being able to run VersaCAD and things of that nature. At least that's what I remember.
Yeah, I did a talk on the Tandy 2000 last year at Tandy Assembly. Some people may have remembered it. One of the things I didn't get to properly demonstrate was a 1000 sitting next to a 2000, both running Flight Sim 1. And no disrespect to the Tandy 1000, but the difference is in FPS, frames per second, is just chalk and cheese. It's a much more playable game, or whatever it is, simulation on the 2000. And so I wanted to kind of have them running side by side, but I couldn't arrange the systems for that. We did have it running on a Tandy 2000, which was good to see. So Peter, can I hand this over to you, because I'm worried my internet's going to continue to keep flapping in the short term.
Sure.
I think the 1000 became very popular in the home market because the 1000, when you ran a lot of the games from Sierra, for example, you actually saw them in 16 colors and had a sound chip for the music and sound effects. Whereas on a real PC, you had 4-color CGA and you had that awful
1-bit
beeper
speaker.
So the 1000, which was actually a PC Junior, was better for the home, and a lot of people bought it because the games looked better on the 1000, and it was cheaper than a real PC.
It was definitely popular for that reason. Processor wise, it actually is a tiny bit slower than the PC, which in a normal, running regular apps like WordPerfect or Lotus or something, you probably didn't notice. But I think in games which had a lot of processing and rendering of graphics, you would actually notice it.
Yeah, though you'd save it on the sound, because even driving the 1-bit speaker was CPU intensive, whereas on the sound chip, you would just send it, I want these 3 voices to play, you go handle it. So it kind of helped balance it out.
Part of the problem is the 1000 didn't come with the DMA chip that the PC had.
Yeah, you had to add a memory card to get the DMA. Then that picked things up a bit.
Yeah, I read somewhere in this article when I was perusing through it, they mentioned that the 1000 was a little slower than the PC with the base memory, but when they maxed out the memory, it was faster than the IBM PC. So that was interesting.
How much RAM did it originally come with?
128,
Yeah.
128K.
Yeah.
And I think that was a purpose. That was a purpose of Tandy, in that the lowest spec Tandy 2000 was 256K.
Nope, there it went again.
Yeah,
Gone again.
He'll be back.
Yeah.
All right. What else in this magazine? Anybody else find anything of interest that they want to discuss?
yeah, on page 13, the ad for Total Access.
There it is.
Yeah. Back in the day, I didn't know anybody who used Rose's Model 4 CPM. And during the computer reset cleanout, they actually found copies of it and loaded it up and checked. And what it is it's either done by the same people, or it's the earlier version of Montezuma Micro CPM.
Huh. I had never heard of it before.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you run it and it, looks almost the same, but, earlier, lower BIOS version.
So it's not like small LDOS for the LDOS computers where they took the bulk of the functionality out of it.
Right. It's just seemed to be just an earlier version.
Okay.
Huh.
Mm. So I think that just about does it for that issue. There's got the usual reviews and things. It's starting to get popular in the Tandy 1000 MS-DOS stuff. There's lots of TRS-80 ads. Project 80, each month I have a project, but really it's just a single board computer that is not really related to TRS-80s other than it has a similar processor.
One thing I wanted to mention was there was a blurb in here about the introduction of the Tandy 6000
Okay.
that was introduced on January 4th of 1985. And Tandy 6000 is going to be one of our celebrated machines at Tandy Assembly this year because it is the 40th anniversary.
Nice.
Did the magazine cover at this point the Model 2s and whatever came after that?
No, by now it was specifically a Model 3 and 4 and Tandy 1000 that even I don't know if they dropped the Tandy 2000 or they just weren't getting articles for the 2000. So there's very little content. But not long after this, I think within about 3 months, Hot Cocoa finished up and then they put it back into 80 micro for about 6 months as well, which grew the magazine by about 30 pages.
Yeah, February of '86 was the last issue of Hot Cocoa.
Yep.
Literally half a year before the Cocoa 3 came out.
Yeah. Who knows what it would have been like if they'd waited a little longer.
Yeah, because there were some other magazines like Spectrogram that came out that supported the Cocoa 3 and ran for about 2 or 3 years, 86 to 88 type thing. And I think they weren't as professionally done. They were almost like big honking newsletters of 120 pages, 130 pages. Sound familiar, Dusty? But I think if Hot Cocoa had stayed because it was an actual professional magazine with glossy paper and the whole bit there, I think they might have gone for a bit longer if they'd made it that far. But of course, they didn't know.
Mm-hmm. All right, enough for the magazine. Let's get back to talking to people. Let's see, Henry, how you doing?
Hey, oh, I'm doing real well. How you doing?
If the internet would stop flapping, I'd be better. But
Yeah.
it's what happens when you want to run an international podcast. So, what you been up to? I see you've got a Tandy Cocoa shirt on.
Oh, yeah, I got the Cocoa shirt, got the Cocoa mug going on, and if I hit my button over here that gives you my overhead, there we go. I've also been getting some work done on a. I've got videos about this video coming out this upcoming Friday of this next little bit. This little monstrosity right here plugs a USB keyboard, a bog standard commodity USB keyboard into your TRS-80 color computer. And for this, I'm simply going to borrow my standard keyboard, which uses this nice little dongle, plug it in here, and I'll start just getting hooked up. Hi, can you plug in? No, that's backwards. Bloody USB. Hang on. There it goes. Got it. And then tap onto the other side of that capacitor where I've got +5 volts. I hope I've got +5 volts. There we go. All right, that and that. And the most recent thing I did with the OLED because I've got 2 modes on this keyboard adapter. One of them gives me, I don't know if you can tell real quick, but you've got the 2 with the quotation mark over it and an @ sign. That's going to be the standard mode. And if I switch over to my composite input, if I hit Shift-2, I get the quotation mark, and if I hit the bracket key, I get the @ the way you would if it were in the raw mode. And if I hold down the Win key and type Z, now that's switching to a mapped mode. So now it follows the symbols on the keyboard. That's going to give me a syntax error. So Shift-2 gives me the @ sign, and I get the normal, like every key that I press, with the exception of the brackets, because shifting the brackets won't give me curly braces because curly braces don't exist on a 1 or a 2. But yeah, that's what I've been working on. And the video for the where'd it go? The video for the OLED display, how I interface that in there, will probably, I mean, that's just standard like Raspberry Pi electronic stuff, but it's still kind of fun to dive in there and see how we're using modern hardware solutions and software-defined hardware to make these things, work in different ways. Yeah, that's me.
So when you put the case together,
Mhm.
what happens to the real Coco keyboard?
Well, the real
It's
Coke, let me get
not
the overhead
plugged
back
in.
up. Yep, so the real Coco keyboard I've literally got set off to the side. What I'm planning on doing with this is building it into a bezel that will take the place of the Coco keyboard itself. So you'll have it sitting here. You'll see your little thing sitting up here and on the keyboard bezel, and you'll have plugs for that. This project is also going to feature creep its way into having joystick inputs, having possibly mouse inputs, that kind of thing. The fun part's going to be figuring out a way to tie wires and fly them over and get them plugged into the joystick ports back here. So that's going to be fun to figure out.
That's great. Like it. Is this going to be available for purchase at some point in the future, or is it a DIY kind of project? Or
Both. I've got it. I've got it up on GitHub. Like all the files that I'm doing with it are up on GitHub. Not this most recent revision because I've got a video to do for that. But it'll be up on GitHub, and as I'm able to, especially considering the way that tariffs are going these days, it may not be cost effective for me to try and get them in and sell them. But if it is still cost effective, I'll bring them in and sell them. I'm going to be bringing a few blank boards and some of the parts I need to build these things over to Coco Fest with me. So I'll have that. I'll be demonstrating my little fourth ROM project where I've replaced the entire Coco operating system. Basically taken, that's not a ROM, that's a ROM. Basically taken this ROM out and popped in my own that boots the thing up into a fourth environment. So
excellent. Thanks for joining us, Henry. Always good to see you here.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. Let's talk to Paul Metcalf. I'm curious to know, Paul, have you got anything left?
Couple things, no hardware left.
Because I noticed you've been having a big fire sale and reduction in project
Yeah,
stuff. So
yeah, everything must go.
everything must go.
Got a couple of manuals left and some library, how to assembly language TRS-80 and TRS-80 basic and COBOL and stuff like that. If anybody's interested in them, reach out to me. I'll send them your way. Need to make room. And I've also got a bunch of ICs left over from restoring my Model 1. I've got some good 2102 video RAM left. I'm pretty sure I've got a bunch of 4116 DRAM left. Think I've got a few floppy controllers, WD-1771s, I think, or 1773s. Might have both, not sure. And fire sale on TMS 9918s back when I did the Chroma TRS project there, and got a few of them thinking might have had a bad one, and yeah, cabling. So if anybody's interested, just reach out, gratis. I'll just ship them to you. If you
So are you? So have you got out of just of TRS-80s or all platform computers?
Right at the moment, I just have my Atari collection and the PC Junior. PC Junior, everything's in its original boxes. I've got the original sales receipt from the original owner and everything, but was a local purchase that I couldn't pass up at the time. But I think I'm gonna part ways with it, is finding it's not 100% compatible with regular MS-DOS programs a lot of the time, and Tandy versions, some work, some don't. You need a special modification chip, which I do have, but I have not installed in the machine, and just don't have the time anymore, or the room. Downsizing that way too. So, if anybody local wants I have a complete PC Junior with all the sidecars, including the super rare voice speech one. Talk to me.
I
We'll
bet
look
someone
into
will be in touch. Yep. Yep. That's good. That's good that you got that there.
So
All right, Paul. Thanks for joining us as always. You take care.
you too.
Let's talk to Peter Phillips.
Hello.
Hello.
I been slowly working on the file system support in the emulator. I wrote the code to write to the Tristos file system, although I can't. I have to get through a lot of different variations. Figured out how the LDOS 2079 date modification works. Getting on that. If I can share the screen briefly. This comes courtesy of the Cocoa people. It's an interesting program that it actually computes digits of pi one at a time if you run it in speed up mode. I found a paper that described how it works because it looks kind of mysteriously short. And maybe I'll write it up, but it's kind of an interesting little algorithm that chugs along.
I just came across this bit of code at from one of the other.
The Cocoa Discord, posted this code.
Cool. Yeah. One of the VCF Selcow guys is running he's cataloging all the computers he can to see how long it takes for it to compute 100 digits of pi. I just ran it on Model 1 Level 2 for him, and it took 29 minutes.
Yeah, I think it might be it depends on exactly how you code it too, because
yes, you're correct.
Because you can, I think with 100 digits, you can probably get away with integers and get rid of some of the statements.
Yeah, I think Wayne Campbell, the guy who does the decompiling program for Basic 09, I think he did a Basic 09 version of this, and it took a lot less than 29 minutes, but it has integer variables and stuff. So
yeah, well, especially if you could compile it a bit, I think would help quite a bit. But the algorithm's interesting, and I found a good paper that explains all the gruesome mathematical details. So I've been trying to understand it myself, but that's just for fun.
If you have a link to that or something to read about that, I would be interested in reading that too, because I just coded it blind, and I'm kind of a math guy, but I've never seen this before. I would love to know how it does what it does.
I'll post a link in the chat because I do have a link to a paper that seems to be it describes it, and it has the off by one bug where when they calculate the size of the array, you need to add 1 to be sure you'll get the right precision. You see there's a 10 in the digit there. That's another detail of the algorithm that this version intentionally avoids. But
interesting. Now I want to compare what you've got to what I have here.
Yeah.
Cool.
The other thing non-TRS-80 was I kind of found a white whale. Like back in the 1980s, early 80s, I was at the London Science Museum, and they had this computer that had like pretty cool graphics and keyboard. It was running a simulation of like a pond ecology or something, and you could play with it. And finally, a posting on Facebook come up that this is it. It's the Research Machines 380Z, which I guess it was an early machine that was in UK schools. It probably cost quite a bit, but it definitely ended up acquiring high resolution graphics and things. So that was sort of exciting to me. I don't know if Dusty ever remembers it or not, or.
Yeah, the 380Zs were a government-led scheme for schools, and it lasted quite a while. It's a very powerful micro and very popular. But I say that I wouldn't say it's a problem. But then the BBC brought out a 6502 processor computer, the Beeb A and B, and the government sort of changed they swapped over, and everything went to the BBC computers, and then straight from there, more or less, to IBM.
Or I could tell the company still they transitioned to making educational software, and they did IBM PCs for a while, and they were still around in like 2011 or something last I saw. So it's an oddball machine. But yeah, that's it.
Cool. Thanks for that, Peter. Always good to hear from you and have you join us here. Do you reckon you'll make it to Tandy Assembly this year?
No, I don't think that's going to happen. From what I can
Always
tell.
That's okay. There's always another one. Let's see who we got left. Quentin Barnes. Hello.
Hi, I really don't have anything to add this month. My free time to work on projects has been fairly limited until recently, so I'll hopefully get back into it this summer and work some more on GW2 DMK for folks. But that's all I really had to say. Oh, and I am looking forward to TRS-80 GP scriptability. That will be pretty cool.
It will be. Cool. Thanks, Quentin. Good on you, mate. Eric. Hi.
Hello.
How's things in Texas?
Yeah, it's okay. We had the local DFW get together today. There was quite a few TRS-80s there, which was pretty good. Somebody had a pristine Model 4 that blew its REFA. So, we got that checked off for the meeting. Eddie brought some of the stuff that he got from Jerry Heap and Gordon Thompson. It was interesting looking through some of Gordon Thompson's engineering notebooks from his time. But I'll let Eddie speak more to that. He's not here, but in the Discord. And I picked up 3 boards that I'm bringing up for the auction that just Model 3 board, a Coco controller, and a Model 1 expansion interface, the newer version.
I thought you were going to say he let you have those Model 2 prototype boards.
No.
That's amazing.
That would have been the lead, for the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I wanted to ask about so what do we got? About a month and a bit till VCF Southwest?
Yep.
Or 6 weeks, something like that. How long?
It's end of June, so.
Okay, we've got a little bit of I'm still trying to get myself there. It hasn't been good with the economy, with the interesting economic changes they've been trying to implement in your country has been mainly offensive to other countries.
Well, I think it's the tariff on swear words that'll trip you up.
It's probably, yeah. Well, and the media is constantly bad. Like we're hearing. You probably in the United States aren't hearing this side of things, but we're hearing stories about customs, turning away people on vacation who are coming to the United States on trivial matters that didn't previously kind of matter. So they don't really trust anyone coming to the country. So coming for 3 days to a computer show doesn't sound like a holiday to them. It sounds like a garbage response to doing something nefarious. So I'm kind of in 2 minds now whether I should head over there. But the main one was that in January, when I checked for return flights from Melbourne to Dallas, could get something under 1,800 Australian dollars. It's about, I guess, 1,600 US dollars. Though since that's happened, tourism has fallen off a cliff. Yet none of the carriers, United or American, are ready to drop their fares. So the fares are around $3,000 to send people in a half full plane. So I watch daily for the fares to drop down back to where I can reasonably afford them. But as well as having no one want to tour to the United States at the moment, the airlines are not doing anything to encourage it. So it's a weird time to be living. So I was 99% sure that I was going to go to Southwest, but now I'm kind of still on the fence with that one. I'd still like to go. I suppose if they can get these airline fares down to a decent amount, again, I could still go. But Tandy, that's what I wanted to ask Eric, was Tandy still got a special place there at Southwest, is the plan?
Well, Tandy Assembly, I'll have a table there for that. And there'll be a lot, of course, Eddie's got his huge display and Joel's got his. So, there'll be, substantial Tandy presence there. But, some people aren't going to be able to make it. I haven't heard from Boise. I know Marcel can't make it. So we'll just have to see. They ran out
Yeah.
of tables early, so.
Okay, so they're selling out. All right. Okay, cool. Anything else you want to report on, or we're basically done?
Yeah, I think that's basically it.
All right. I noticed Jay's not here. He was here earlier, but obviously had something had to go do. I suppose I should remind people that if you're only here for a limited time, you've got to put your hand up early and tell me that you're here only for a limited time, so that I get through to everyone who has taken their time to join us here. I am left with Timothy Halloran. Hello.
Hello. Last but hopefully not least.
Second last after Craig, but I know Craig's always.
Oh, all right. No. Okay, great. I'll keep it brief then, because everybody's probably tired. Yeah. Working on a tech talk for Tandy Assembly on CPM. So I've been bugging people in the CPM Discord and playing around with things. So I'll get that together. Not a lot of other retro projects on the hardware side. I've been doing restoring a VT180, which is a real curiosity. It's a VT100 that's a CPM machine. So if you're ever interested in there, but that's been fun. But I'm getting back into it for the Tandy Assembly for the CPM thing and playing around with it. Once again, continuing my streak of doing tech talks on things I know very little about, so I will actually learn about them so I can present them. And it'll be exciting to get feedback from the community on Discord and at Tandy Assembly. So I'm really looking forward to that and seeing everyone. So hopefully everybody can come and enjoy the weekend with us.
Yeah, that'd be great. Have you had a think at all about what stuff you're going to chuck into the Tandy Assembly auction?
No,
year?
I've got a pile of Model 4, so probably a Model 4, because it's getting to the point that I don't have as many as Vernon, but I think I have like 6 or 7 that go. I've got to dig out one and get that. But yeah, I'll have a few things, I'm sure. Usually I start pulling stuff out in the summer and cleaning and reorganizing and start making a pile. So it'll be
Cool.
There'll be something.
Yep.
Be something.
Okay. And speaking of Vernon, when you reach out to him, tell him he's well missed here. We all miss him.
Yeah, I keep emailing him every now and then. I hope he's all right. I haven't heard from him in quite a while. Although he does tend to like go in spurts. He's very intense and then kind of disappears for months on end. But it's been a while.
Yeah.
So he'll pop back up and we'll get to see him.
Hopefully soon. Yeah.
By the way, I just want to mention something that Tim alluded to. He mentioned he's giving a Tandy Tech Talk on something he knows nothing about. He's spending the time to learn about it. So let that be an inspiration for other people who want to give a tech talk. You don't have to know what you're going to talk about, but you can learn about it and use it as an opportunity to learn and teach others.
And refresh your memory from stuff you've learned years ago. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's lots of fun, and it's a great way to kind of learn something new about the hobby. And with a deadline, you learn a lot faster.
That's the only way my articles for Tris 8-bit get finished, is when the deadline is looming. The adrenaline kicks in. Okay, Craig Skeels. like you last.
Hi there. I haven't really been able to do any TRS-80 stuff lately, but yeah,
That's okay.
I'm in a more stable room and place to work from home and stuff, so I'm getting stuff at my desk, and all my TRS-80 stuff is in storage, and just have to
Yep.
locate it and bring it out as I get a
In
chance.
a controlled manner. That's what you
Yeah.
want. Yeah, make sure everything's stored properly and working properly. Yeah.
Probably not going to make it out to Tandy Assembly this year. It's on my bucket list at least, but has been for a few years.
There'll always be another one. So, yeah. Okay, cool, Craig. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
As always. Peter, just some questions for you. Satinsky, that is. How's the 10 coming along?
How's what coming along?
The Tandy 10. The 10.
Oh, it's in my garage. I haven't looked at it lately.
It looks daunting to look at it.
I gotta get that power supply out of it or power it up. So.
Oh, speaking of power supply, I got a question for you since you're the expert on these. I've got a Model 2 which doesn't run. The power supply seems to be outputting the correct voltages, but I've got no raster or anything on the CRT, and the computer doesn't attempt to boot or anything like that. What would your first step be? Change the video board or the power supply?
You measured the voltages at the cage?
Yes, I've at the connector, yeah, of where the cards plug in.
Oh, so you got all good voltages and you're not getting any raster?
And no raster, no.
And you have good 12 volts?
Yeah. Well, it's got 12 volts. I don't know how good it is. I haven't checked for its stability, but on a simple multimeter, it's coming up as 12.
I would look at the CRT video board,
Okay, all right. Are they
One trick, Nav, is that I've used, Peter. I think you can take the top of a Model 3 and hook it up to the Model 2, like pull the output and hook it up to that video board.
Okay, so
they're the same. So
right.
you can just plug it into that, and if you know the Model 3 video board works, it should show up. I did that in mine. Is that right, Peter? I'm not giving bad advice, am I?
No, yeah, the CRT and the video board, the RCA video subsystem is the same in both machines.
Okay, that's good to know. If I was more prepared, I'd do show and tell. But I picked up a gold pack of Scott Adams games. You know, the gold edition. They only made 1,000 of them.
The one that somebody's selling for like $5,000 on eBay.
Yeah, I got one. Yeah. I picked it up. I picked it up with a Model 1 system that was actually a gentleman contacted me through my website and said, I'm downsizing, throw some money at me, you can have this whole system. So I went and got it, and I was surprised to see that there. I think it's number 187. It's just text adventure games on cassette, but for some reason super rare. In fact, Peter, I believe, didn't Scott say at Tandy Assembly 2017 that he was proud of it, but even he doesn't own one now?
I believe that's correct. He does not have it. Yes.
Does not have it. Yeah, but it was it was a special, super rare thing. So I'm kind of pleased to get that. Anyone else intending to go to Southwest or Cocoa Fest? Nope. Okay. I'm just keen to keep a finger on the pulse of both of them so that we can make sure that we're offering the best type of Tandy exhibition and shows. We're all connected. It works the best.
Yeah, we're going to try to do some live streaming from Cocoa Fest, assuming the bandwidth is good enough. Otherwise, we're going to record some videos we'll cover on the show later on. So that's another way to catch up on it.
You could do that 24-hour thing and just start the recording at the start and just never turn it off, and it becomes the 24 hours of not Le Mans, but the 24 hours of Cocoa Fest.
The way
I don't think my voice would hold out.
Yeah, the way Curtis comes up with news stories, it would not be impossible to have a 24-hour Coco channel.
Yeah, I could play all the videos I show on the show, in their entirety instead of like a minute clip.
We can't
Cool.
shut him up.
Right, 4 minutes to go. Final words. Anyone got anything else to say?
I've been really thrilled to see all the Coco stuff tonight. That was great. So thanks, Henry,
Yes.
Curtis, and
We
Nick
always,
and
yeah, we
everybody
always
in-
encourage,
Yeah.
we always encourage Coco content at Tandy Assembly and for Coco representatives to join us here. So yeah, they're a big part of the Tandy community, and we like to do what we can to help them to do what they do best. So
Plus, Nitrous 9 and Xenix are kind of like kissing cousins. So
I've never thought of it that way, but if you say so.
well, they're both preemptive multi-user, multitasking operating systems, right?
Yep. And as I always say, every few trash talks, if you know of or have met or are on good terms with former people from back in the TRS-80 day, and you think they'd like to do either a trash talk non-live interview with Peter Stinsky and myself, or they'd like to come and tell us their story at Tandy Assembly, please do pass their information on to us or get them to contact us, because we're always aiming to get the best presenters to present at the best TRS-80 show, which is Tandy Assembly.
Do you want me to pass an email on for Robert Kilgus? He started on the TRS-80 Model 1 first, and he went to the Coco afterwards, but he did several commercial programs for Tandy.
I would appreciate that very much. I'd like to get Robert on there, not only because of all the stuff he's done with the Coco and the TRS-80, but also without mincing words, I believe he's getting on in years, and
Yeah, he's over 80 now.
And so I'd like to get people like that on sooner rather than, unfortunately, later. I think he'd be great to have. Plus, anyone who worked at Rainbow or 80 Micro magazine would be good. If
You want to
anyone
send me
knows-
your email, Mav, in the chat or something? Unless you want to read it out in the air, that's fine too. But
Yeah,
then I'll-
ENM@TRS-80.com.
TRS-80.com?
Yep, as in what the computer's called.
That's too bleeding obvious.
Yeah. So it's ENM, IANM at TRS-80.com. Yeah, people who worked at the magazines, I think I say it over and over again, I think it would be fascinating to talk to them given the high pressure environment of trying to produce a magazine the size of Rainbow or 80 Micro. There must be some funny stories about working at those places each month. In fact, I would have, if Lonnie was still alive, I would have him on in an instant.
Yeah, he was an interesting character. I met him a few times at Rainbow Fest, and
I suppose the closest of Rainbow that if you could track them down would be Tamara Dunn. I think she would have some interesting stories.
Lonnie's daughters worked for Rainbow for a while too, and they probably would have some pretty good memories about some of that stuff.
If they want to
Rainbow Fest too.
If you can find them and they want to relive their dad's legacy, that would be awesome.
The other one I could probably suggest for you, if you'd be interested, Bill Sias used to do Color Computer News. We did interview him on our show several years back. Now he's like a fitness guru and stuff. Like he completely changed careers, but he went through the whole explanation of a combination of a messy divorce and a really heavy snowfall that caved in the building's ceiling is why they stopped publishing all of a sudden.
Okay, well, that's the first I've heard of that one, and that would be a great story to tell if he would be willing to tell it. So.
Okay, I'll see. I like that. That's a few years, so I don't know if his email's still accurate, but if it is, I'll send you that one as well.
Cool. Thanks for that. Okay, any last words before we wrap this thing up? Crickets. Okay, everyone. Thanks for joining, and we'll do this again in another month, eh, Peter?
We'll try.
We will. All right. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Have fun. Thank you.